Hey everyone, Harold Fisher here, anchor and host of the Daily Drum on WHUR. Back again with another great discussion on HUR at Home on Facebook, YouTube, and WHUR.com. Tonight we are talking to Susan Taylor, editor emeritus of Essence Magazine, author, activist, and one of the most fantastic women to ever walk the planet. Susan Taylor, thank you so much for joining this discussion with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. That's a lot. That's a lot.
And it's just a little bit.
Okay.
That's just a little bit, but I don't think it's an overstatement to say that you are just really one of the just most fantastic women in America, always has been. You have done so many incredible things for Black women, for Black families since your Essence Magazine days, and very much after that as well. So I think you can claim that.
Well, I won't claim it, but I'll say thank you to you. Thank you.
You're quite well, and if I may say, you are as beautiful as ever. You look fantastic. The hair, you are ageless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me talk a little bit about where we are right now. Tough time for the world, the nation, and for Black families. How are you and your family handling this shutdown? How have you been able to adjust?
Well, I think like your family, we are among the most blessed in not just the nation, but in the world. In fact, Bishop Vashti McKenzie asked me to join her gratitude project and to name the things that I'm really grateful for. And, I gave it some very careful and prayerful thought. And you know what I said? I'm thankful for a bathtub, that I have a roof over my head, that my family, they have walls to protect them, a soft place to lay my weary head at the end of the day. Because as you travel the world, you see that a lot of people don't have those things that we may take for granted. And we don't want to take anything for granted. To have a heart that beats, eyes that can see, that we're mobile. People ask about how I'm adjusting to being shut in. I live in the air. The National Cares Mentoring Movement is in 58 cities, so I'm always traveling, always out there. I just love being home in my home. Oh, these are my floors. Oh, look at the art on the wall. I haven't had a chance to sit here and watch these things in a long time, so I'm very much at peace.
That's interesting you should say that, because just last week, for example, we spoke to the head of the American Diabetes Association. She was explaining that she also travels so much, and that now she has an opportunity to look at her teenage daughter, to look at her husband, and to say, "Oh, look at you," And I think, for those people who have, the blessing of being able to be with their family and sit still right now, that really is a big deal.
It is. It's a blessing, but I'm here working. I feel like I'm working. I think it's harder. I've always worked like this 7 days a week. I'm looking for a time when I don't have to do that kind of duty, where it doesn't require, my service doesn't require 7 days a week. But right now, the National Cares Mentoring Movement is very much focused on our children living in poverty and our parents, their parents living in poverty. And that's really our work. And this pandemic has thrown people who are the working poor, the children of the working poor, into an anxiety and a depression that is beyond description, because they're losing their parents, they're losing loved ones, they're losing family members, and they're really afraid of the future. And the promised computers, all the computers and the Wi-Fi internet service that was supposed to be made available to folks who were living with less, they haven't reached all those places. So we have children who are already at the bottom of the academic measure, losing ground during this pandemic. And we can't allow that. So that's very much what I'm working on every day. We've moved all of our trainings, which are in schools. We've moved them to the virtual world. So they were all on virtual platforms. Our psychologists, our social workers, our mentors are still working with the children. There's been a lot of work, but to be able to do it in the comfort of my home is a blessing.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the genesis of the National Cares and Mentoring Movement? What was it that made you realize that something like this was necessary and so important to our community?
It was Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans, the home of the Essence Festival. And we watched the city flood. We watched our people be absolutely vulnerable and children feeling really defenseless and then in many ways abandoned. And I said to the Essence family, we cannot go back to festival and do what we were doing. We have to have a party with a deeper purpose. And so I asked, that we brought all the celebrities, politicians, people came, from far and wide, and we asked one thing: would you go back to your respective cities? These are to the thousands of people who gathered and mentor the vulnerable children. Well, it didn't work out that way, and they came back to me, Tommy Dortch, and a whole host of other people. He was the head and still is. He's now the chairman, again, of the 100 Black Men. And he said, you need structure, and he took it on and began building in Atlanta. And Atlanta was really the first affiliate. I couldn't let people use the name Essence, so it became the National Cares Mentoring Movement rather than Essence Cares, which is what it was given birth to. And very simply, what we're asking people to do is just get involved. Get involved in the mentoring. What we do is we recruit mentors, we train them, and then we deploy them to where our children have a desperate need to see mentors who look like them. Because when the call goes out for mentors, very often it's white women and men who are the first responders. And, we've come to see, Black folk are the most caring and giving people in the world, but we also have our own drama. And that's what we're trying to manage. So the National Cares Mentoring Movement is really devoted to dismantling, breaking the cycle of intergenerational Black poverty. And we really are, we're instituting wellness in body, mind, spirit, and community among our people. And so about our community wellness gatherings on Thursday evening. Are you aware of those?
I'm not, no.
Oh, okay, well, we want to ask everybody, if you're in the Eastern time zone, 8 o'clock, go on to National Cares Mentoring Movement's, not Instagram, but Facebook page. And you'll see that we are there. This week we're talking about, we have a sister who's incarcerated, who is now an advocate for those who are incarcerated and were. She's amazing, really looking at how women's lives and children's lives fall apart in a different way than when men are incarcerated. And then we're doing a whole segment on nutrition. One of the most amazing women, nutritionist and doctor, actually, Phyllis Hubbard. And then we're going to end with some comedy.
Laughter always the best medicine.
Pardon?
Laughter always the best medicine.
Yes. And Michelle, the indie mom?
Yes.
Baltimore, so she's going to close the show. Everybody, please be with us every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. Every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock, you go on through Facebook Live.
I want to ask you, more broadly about, when you kind of look back over your experience and how you have been an integral part of shaping the lives of Black women and, by extension, Black men, myself included. I was a fan pre-internet because there were Essence magazines all over my house growing up. I ask a question about girls, my mother would say, "Here, read this."
Wise mother.
My mother's still she's probably watching now. But when you look back over, these many years and how far Black women have come and how they have evolved, what do you see now that you would say was not in place when you were editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine?
That's a very interesting question. We have excelled in just broadly in careers that we didn't even know about, 20 years ago. I've been away from Essence since 2008. And so I moved on to becoming the editorial director, and there were other chief editors, and I just oversaw all the platforms, but wasn't directly involved in the day-to-day running of them. And I think it's primarily, there's a move toward wellness today that we were talking about. That's what I wrote about. That's what In the Spirit was really about, but it wasn't widely embraced. And today it is. Today we easily speak. It was amazing to have, a well-known person come on and talk about depression. When Terry Williams wrote the book Black Pain, and you had people like Sean Combs and others who would really talk about their own sadnesses, that was revolutionary. And today, with all these social media platforms and people being transparent, we know everybody's business. So I think the major shift is that there's a transparency about people's personal struggles that wasn't so easily shared, when I was leading Essence.
Politically, where do you think Black women are right now? I mean, I think, from my perspective, as we just watch, whether it's the Michelle Obamas or the Kamala Harris's, or your county council member, your city council member, Black women are stepping up in ways that we probably could not have imagined 30 years ago. Is America ready for a Black female president?
It doesn't matter. They weren't ready for a Black male president, but we had one.
Until they were ready.
They had to get ready. I mean, they helped. And I think people are absolutely ready for change. They're ready for a different kind of capitalism. I want to get to the point. This is not working. The idea that we can have a quarter over quarter, year over year profit forevermore at any cost. The poisoning of the environment, the hungry and homeless people we see populating the streets of every major city in this nation. The fact that we have, low paid essential workers now seen as essential, not seen as essential before. Courageous people who may not have had any political persuasions before, who are saying now I can do better than we're doing now. I think that people are looking at this system and they're understanding that this virus has come to teach us, come to teach us something, to go within ourselves, to know that we have powers that we've not utilized, that we've been go along with whatever it is. People do a lot of talking, but what's the plan? And what I'm sensing now is that people are planning for a better tomorrow. When we come out of this, we want to be better than we were when we entered it. And that means that some seismic shifts have got to take place. You see my this is not a drink, it's actually a flashlight. Let me get it out of the screen.
We have to work it out when you're at home, any kind of way you can.
We're not going to tell them about your little hook up there, are we?
A little sheet of paper. Exactly.
So this is really what I'm aiming at. And we need courageous women to step up. We need men and women to realize that too much testosterone creates war. You watch little boys fight. So there's something in that male spirit that.
Yeah, the brothers really have to get it together. And I've got a delivery there. But I tell you, working from home is really something. I only have a few moments left, but one of the things, if you'll allow me, that I can really say about you, that you are an intellectual giant. You are an activist. You are a caretaker. But the thing that I found most interesting, and particularly for our viewers and listeners in the DMV, back in 1987, I was a 22-year-old reporter at WHUR before my television career. And I asked you at Landover Mall when you were there with Vanessa Bell Calloway to do an event, and asked you for an autograph, and you said, "How about a hug?" And that was one of the first kind gestures I thought from somebody who was a true celebrity, and I will always remember that kindness. Not to mention, you smelled wonderful, and we even had a conversation about fragrances. And so I just wanted to to thank you for that kindness. and being who you were, who you are for our Black community. I think it's just so important that people like you are part of our community. I want to thank Susan Taylor, the editor emeritus of Essence Magazine, for really sitting down and talking to us. Information about the National Cares Mentoring Movement will be on the website for this conversation. And I want to thank everyone who has been watching during this difficult time. So as always, HUR at Home, I'll be doing it on Tuesday, have another interview on tomorrow. And of course, the other members of our cast and crew at WHUR will be doing the same. So I want to wish you a happy Tuesday evening. And as always, stay safe, and I'll see you on the radio.